correctly, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coons. The white man to go nuts if he can't shoot. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
Queen.
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation.
Queen.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. Do me a favor, like and share. Don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving notifications. Okay, so before we get into it, let's have a brief word from our sponsor at 12 Tribes. All right, DSB just gifted the channel a membership. 1, 2, 3, 3 memberships. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. All right. Thanks for your kindness and generosity. Okay, you all shout out DSB. He just gifted 3 memberships to the channel. You all know that DSB is always gifting memberships to this channel. Okay, so you all should be grateful. So make sure you shout him out. And also, thank you, beloved, for your contributions to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. All right. So there y'all have it, especially those of you who got those memberships. Okay, make sure you're shouting him out. All right, thank you, beloved. Now, with that all being said, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes so we can get right on into it. Okay, we have a lot to cover. All right, here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. All right, and so that all being said, let's see who all is in here. All right, D Major. All right, Desmond is here. Mel is in the house. Shout out to my moderators for putting in work. Y'all know I keep them busy. Okay. And of course, DSB, Panther Strike, Claudette. Okay. Cookie's in the house. All right. Sheila is here. Let's get into it. We the people. Okay. Everybody hit that like button. All right. So with that all been said, let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Dangerous. All right. Anita Harrell is in the building. Mama Jocelyn is here. Songwriter Sunny. Okay. Juju B. Pretty Wings. Lillian X. All right. Troy is here. Ursula. Nessa G. March Baby. All right. So with that all been said, and shout out to everybody that I didn't get to. Okay. Most Hated Bronze Flat Power God and October Opal. All right. So before we get into the nefariousness of it all, let's start off. Let's talk about this young man, this little boy who was in class, elementary, and the teacher decides to sing happy birthday to him. And in doing so, she calls him a monkey. Now, some would say, oh, that's not a big deal because we used to sing that song when we were kids. Yeah, some of us did sing it when we were kids, but who taught it to us? Certainly not our parents. Okay? Certainly not our parents. You see, we heard people who didn't look like us singing that when we were in school at the end of the day, and we didn't know any better, so we sang it to each other. That's what we did. But any adult grown person should know that you don't say something like that. You don't call a little black child a monkey when you know that that word has been attached to it, even though it's not technically a racial slur. You know that that word has been attached historically to derogatory terms are used to call black people by a derogatory term. Okay, we all know that. So the teacher should have been more careful. And I think that she knew exactly what she was doing. That's just what I think. She's likely a whole Karen, in my opinion. So with that all being said, let's go to that video and let's see her dastardly deed. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
Hi, Legend. Did you have a birthday last week?
Yes.
And how old are you now?
6.
You're 6? You're
Yeah.
sure you're not 60?
I'm in 6.
You're 6. Can we sing happy birthday to you? All
Yes.
right, here we go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Legend. Happy birthday to you.
Would you like the funny song now that I sing to you? Okay,
Oh,
it goes like
yeah.
this. Happy birthday to you. You live in the zoo. You look like a monkey and you smell like one too. Woo! Give a clap, everybody. Happy birthday, Legend. Hi, Legend. Did you have a birthday last week?
Attention. I want you all to pay attention. At the end of the day, like I said, there's no excuse for that as far as I'm concerned. If I were a parent, I'd have gone right up to that school and called her outside of her class and given her a piece of my mind. Okay. And then I would have reported her to the Board of Education because she knew exactly what she was doing. Okay. And I'm sure they would have tried to say, oh, she was just having fun. She was just, singing a song and all of that because, racist people tried to cover for other racist people to hide their racism and act as though they didn't do anything wrong. And it was all just fun and games. And you took it out of context, or you, in fact, took it the wrong way. And technically, since monkey isn't a racist slur, she probably won't get any consequences. Okay? Flower Lotus said definitely racist behavior. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. And then shameful, doing that to him in front of everybody. And the little kid's only 6. So quite frankly, he probably doesn't even know what she was doing. Okay, this is why you have to talk to your children about racism and things that they may encounter. You're doing your children a disservice if you do not inform them of things that they may encounter in life. Because the reality of it is, if you're Black, you could always encounter racism. It could always be you that gets the ninja wake up call. Because some of y'all Black folk don't think that you're ever going to get it. And because you haven't gone through it, you just think it doesn't exist. What Marlon Brown seems to think. I keep bringing him up for a reason, specifically on today, because he called a Black lady a monkey. Funny thing is, he's Black. Oh, but he doesn't identify as it because he's from Trinidad. And didn't he get upset when we had him on the show and I told him that he wasn't African American and that's why he felt that he could call that Black woman a monkey, knowing that that's what racist people have called us historically? He got mad, didn't he? He wanted to leave. Yeah, he knew what he was doing. You see, Marlon's a raccoon. Any Black person Okay. Any person that's in the skin that we're in and they want to use the same terms against us. Now, we're not talking about raccoons because we all know we got to call out raccoons. And in fact, when they came up with that term, raccoon, they weren't using it in the same context that we are. We use that to call out those that sell us out, who turn their backs on us, and who go and run and snitch to massa and let them know that the rest of us are trying to escape. You see, some of us actually want to leave the plantation. But the raccoons, they're fine on it because they don't see nothing wrong. Massa lets me sleep all day. Massa lets me drink whiskey in the summertime, and he puts extra hay in the barn for me to sleep comfortable. They're just like Fiddler on Roots or Stephen from Django. Okay, that's how that works. And so, with that all being said, they will try to talk down on people like me when I call one of them a raccoon. But that's in fact what they are. And if we remember, in 1804, when the Haitians had their revolution, where they gained their freedom and independence from the colonizers and those who oppressed them, they got rid of the raccoons first. You see, that's what you have to do when there's a revolution, because the raccoons are going to sell you up the river and they're going to go back and tell Massa what you're plotting so you don't get to freedom. Because the raccoons, they don't want freedom. Freedom for them as having a closeness to whiteness. Please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, I think we can move on and let's talk about Assata Shakur. Let's talk about Assata Shakur, because the nerve of Pete Hegseth to tell us Black folk not to grieve, not to mourn her, but the same one that wants us to mourn Charlie Kirk, who spewed hate. Now, keep this in mind. Now, they call Charlie Kirk a political activist. I'll give him that. I guess he could be called an activist because he was helping his people. But at the end of the day, Assata Shakur was also a political activist. The difference between the two is, well, there's many differences, but one specifically is that one spewed hate and division, and the other fought against hate and division. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about why Assata Shakur, first of all, was completely innocent of those charges. We know, those of us who study, read, and research, we know that the Black Panther Party was demonized and vilified. And now we hear these fools on the news calling them, I'm going to play the audio for you or play the video for you, sitting there talking about it was one of the most dangerous, vicious groups ever. That's what they said about the Black Panther Party for self-defense, who only stood up against police brutality for their community, okay, who went to the Capitol with guns to exercise their Second Amendment right, and also those who fought against social injustices. They weren't killers and thugs and robbers and thieves like they want to paint them out to be. Okay. And the ones that did those things were paid to do it to make the rest of them look bad. We know how they planted lies and all kinds of fraudulent evidence to frame them. There's many of them sitting in prison behind bars right now. They'll never get out, sadly. Political prisoners. And you all who've been following me know that, because I've done a myriad of stories on them every year. You know, I always do something to commemorate Black August. Okay. You know that I have done many videos about Assata Shakur, specifically every year on her birthday. Okay, with that all being said, I didn't do one this year because I was caught up with the Diddy BS. But the thing of the story is, these people have a whole lot of nerve. People like Kash Patel to tell us who we should be praising or mourning. I find it all so nefarious. At the end of the day, you don't get to tell me who to like and who to hate. That's what you don't get to do. Okay. But that's what Trump wants to do with his government. He wants to be a dictator, and and I told you all this about a week or so ago, that when they start controlling the way you speak, the next thing is they start controlling the way you think, you see. Because if you really want to change, you first change the way you think. And then once you change the way you think, you start to change the way you speak. Okay? The two actually go hand in hand. So when they're censoring us and telling us what to say and when to say it and how to say it, and then they're also controlling your thoughts, because you get caught up in it and you get used to doing what you're told. And now you just fall in line and become a zombie. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. You become a zombie. Sadly, some people in this society, in the United States, well, they're already that. And those are the people that we call MAGA, the ones who follow Trump. Okay, the ones who have this blind loyalty to Trump. Those people have already lost their minds, if ever they had any, is all I'm saying. Now, with that all being said, so let me tell you why Assata Shakur was innocent. And you know, this is nothing new, because like I said, if you've been following me, I've told you this already and before. Okay, first of all, what they accused her of was absolutely impossible for her to carry out. Okay? But she's been on America's Most Wanted for what, 40 years? And you all know that it was Barack Obama that actually put her on the most wanted terrorist list. Yeah, they got the black man to do it. Isn't that how it always goes? Please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's get into it. Well, hold on. No. First, let's go to what Kash Patel said. Here's what he says, you guys. FBI Director Kash Patel says, don't mourn Tupac's terrorist grandma, okay, after her death. First of all, she wasn't his grandma. That's for number one, but let me continue. FBI Director Kash Patel has warned against mourning Assata Shakur following her death in Cuba, calling the former Black Liberation Army member, okay, and Tupac's godmother a terrorist. In a statement on X, Patel used Shakur's birth name, Joanne Chesimard, and said she should not be remembered as a fighter for justice. Why not? That's exactly what she was. So were all of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. So he goes on to say, Joanne Chesimard didn't fight for justice. She murdered New Jersey State Trooper Werner Forrester in cold blood, then fled to Cuba to escape accountability. The FBI never stopped calling her what she was, a terrorist. Now, the funny thing about that is, the ironic thing about that for me is that he wants to call her a terrorist. The government, our government, wants to call her a terrorist, but those thugs that rioted the Capitol, who caused the whole insurrection, those are the terrorists, domestic terrorists, right? But Donald Trump pardoned at least 1,500 of them. Make that make sense. But Elon Musk and others want to tell us there's no such thing as white privilege. And I want you all to pay attention, because if my X account gets deleted anytime soon, don't worry. It's just because I pissed off Elon. Okay, you see, I tagged him today, okay, and let him know something, because he had the nerve to say that there was black privilege because a black man did something to a white girl. And then he had gotten out of jail plenty of times before that. And he was like, this is the epitome, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, this is black privilege. When he knows darn well there's no such thing. And any fool that utters those two words together know that they're lying. There's only white privilege in the United States. That's just a fact. And to prove my point, we have a whole wannabe dictator, okay, in charge right now, who has 34 felonious convictions, who's been accused of multiple counts of assault and rape, okay, as well as being accused of giving someone hush money. We should add bribery, money laundering, and a whole bunch of things to the list, if you ask me. But anyway, let me continue. So anyway, goes on to say, I mean, he was doing all he could do, basically saying that she killed this police officer. The FBI never stopped calling her what she was, a terrorist. Mourning her is spitting on the badge and the blood of every cop who gave their life in service. Wow, way to try to make us feel shamed and guilted. It don't work for me, because you know what I think about when he said spitting on the badge and the blood of every cop who gave their life to service. I could say the same thing about every black person who lost their life while unarmed to those same police that he's talking about. So he could miss me with it. I don't know about the rest of you, but he can damn sure miss me with it. That's what he can do. He says, words cannot describe the depth of loss that I am feeling at this time. Hold on, did I skip something? Here it is. Okay, now Shakur died September 25th in Havana. Her daughter, Kakuya Shakur, confirmed her passing in a statement, writing, at approximately 1:15 p.m. on September the 25th, my mother, Assata Shakur, took her last earthly breath. Words cannot describe the depth of loss that I am feeling at this time. And I want to thank you for your loving prayers that continue to anchor me in the strength that I need in this moment. The Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs also acknowledged her death, citing complications related to advanced age. Shakur was convicted in 1977 of Forrester's murder during a 1973 shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike. She was sentenced to life in prison, but escaped in 1979 with the help of the Black Liberation Army. Fidel Castro granted her political asylum in Cuba, where she remained for decades. Her citizenship status remained a source of tension between the U.S. and Cuba. The FBI placed her on its most wanted terrorist list in 2013, offering $2 million as a reward for her capture. Thank you, Barack. Supporters often portrayed her as a victim of racial injustice, while law enforcement consistently described her as a fugitive responsible for the death of a state trooper. Tupac Shakur, the late rapper, frequently referenced Assata in his life and work, commenting her symbolic role in activist circles. Patel's remarks made clear the FBI will not alter its stance even in the wake of her death. Well, we don't expect them to. Okay, we don't expect them to. At the end of the day, we know all about COINTELPRO. We know about the dastardly deeds they've done. Okay, please. So should we expect anything less? All right. So now here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Let me pull up my receipts real quick. I was actually looking for the video that I already did. I don't know if YouTube took it down, but funny thing is I can't find that video. Okay, where I told you all about her medical diagnosis right after that shooting and then before she was arrested. So let's talk about it. I still have the receipts. So here's why she didn't shoot that man. First of all, a neurologist testified on the stand. And let me just put this up on the screen so you all can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so the thing of it is, Assata Shakur was shot, and one of the bullets severed her median nerve in her right arm, which the defense argued immediately paralyzed that arm. This is the median nerve right here. Okay. This nerve was severed. So therefore her arm was paralyzed immediately. Another bullet reportedly wounded her clavicle or collarbone. Now this right here is the clavicle. Now imagine your clavicle being broken or fractured. Okay, and you trying to shoot somebody, but your other arm is paralyzed because you've been shot and it severed the median nerve. And this is what a fractured clavicle looks like. So all of this being said, we're supposed to believe that she killed this man? Yeah, she absolutely did. Another bullet reportedly wounded her clavicle or collarbone and remains lodged near her chest. Okay. And then the defense's medical experts, neurosurgeon Dr. Arthur Turner Davidson, and amongst others, argued that the nature and trajectory of the wounds were only consistent with both arms raised, i.e., she purportedly could not have been shooting while crouching or lowering her arms. Okay. Now, after being shot, Shakur was under heavy guard to Middlesex General Hospital in New Brunswick, New Jersey. She was reported to be in serious condition in the hospital. Okay, and she was interrogated while she was in her hospital bed too, just so you know. Her lawyers secured a court order to transfer her to Roosevelt Hospital in Edison because they didn't feel like she was safe there. Eventually, she was moved to the Middlesex County Workhouse. Her defense alleged that the medical care during that period immediately after her injury was substandard. The defense presented neurological, surgical, and pathological testimony to support her version of the events. That she could not have fired a weapon after being shot, that the trajectories were consistent with surrender. She was surrendering. She didn't kill anybody. This is the lie that they've told and perpetuated for decades. Devils, but they want me to mourn Charlie Kirk. Yeah, when hell freezes over, that's when. Now, for example, Dr. Davidson based his conclusions on x-rays taken right after the shooting at Middlesex General Hospital. The absence of gunpowder residue on her fingers and the lack of fingerprints on any weapons were also cited in her defense. But guess what? They still found her guilty. Okay. They still found her guilty. Now, neurosurgeon Dr. Arthur Turner Davidson testified also that the wounds to Assata Shakur's upper arm, armpit, and chest including a severed median nerve in her right arm were consistent with her having both arms raised at the time of the shot. She had her hands up. She had her hands up just like Michael Brown down in Ferguson. How many Black people have been killed with their hands raised? Surrendering. Yeah, plenty. But let's continue. A pathologist, Dr. David Spain from Brookdale Community College, also testified that bullet scars and x-rays supported Shakur's accounts that her arms were raised. Now, Davidson's conclusions were based on x-rays taken right after the shooting. He also did an examination on August the 4th of 1976, long after the incident, because this was around 73 when it happened. But he did this examination in 1976, long after the incident, to support his testimony. Now, the defense presented that a neutron activation test was performed to check whether she had fired a weapon, and it was negative. Her fingerprints weren't found on any weapons at the scene, as I said. Now, Trooper Harper, who claimed that Shakur fired a weapon from inside the car, under cross-examination, I want y'all to pay attention to this part. He admitted that he did not see a weapon in her hand while she was in the car. Okay? I want y'all to pay attention, because that's not what he said at first. So he lied. Yeah, that's what he did. He lied. Okay? Absolutely lied. And like I said, these are the stories they have told for years. Now, with that all being said, let's go to Assata Shakur speaking herself. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
Assata Shakur, who died in Havana, Cuba, Thursday at the age of 78. She was a legendary figure within the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. Assata Shakur was convicted in the May 2nd, 1973 killing of a New Jersey state trooper during a shootout that left one of her fellow activists dead. She was shot twice by police during the incident. In 1979, she managed to escape from jail and flee to Cuba, where she received political asylum. She long proclaimed her innocence. In 1998, Democracy Now! Aired her reading an open letter to Pope John Paul II during his trip to Cuba. She wrote the message after New Jersey state troopers sent the Pope a letter asking him to call for her extradition. This is Assata Shakur.
My name is Assata Shakur, and I was born and raised in the United States. I am a descendant of Africans who were kidnapped and brought to the Americas as slaves. I spent my early childhood in the racist segregated South. I later moved to the northern part of the country, where I realized that Black people were equally victimized by racism and oppression. I grew up and became a political activist, participating in student struggles, the anti-war movement, and most of all, in the movement for the liberation of African Americans in the United States. I later joined the Black Panther Party, an organization that was targeted by the COINTELPRO program, a program that was set up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to eliminate all political opposition to the U.S. government's policies, to destroy the Black liberation movement in the United States, to discredit activists, and to eliminate potential leaders. Under the COINTELPRO program, many political activists were harassed, imprisoned, murdered, or otherwise neutralized. As a result of being targeted by COINTELPRO, I, like many other young people, was faced with the threat of prison, underground, exile, or death. The FBI, with the help of local police agencies, systematically fed false accusations and fake news articles to the press, accusing me and other activists of crimes we did not commit. Although in my case, the charges were eventually dropped or I was eventually acquitted, the national and local police agencies created a situation where, based on their false accusations against me, any police officer could shoot me on sight. It was not until The Freedom of Information Act was passed in the mid-70s that we began to see the scope of the United States government's persecution of political activists. At this point, I think that it is important to make one thing very clear. I have advocated, and I still advocate, revolutionary changes in the structure and in the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination for my people and for all oppressed people inside the United States. I advocate an end to capitalist exploitation, the abolition of racist policies, the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty. To make a long story short, I was captured in New Jersey in 1973 after being shot with both arms held in the air and then shot again from the back. I was left on the ground to die, and when I did not, I was taken to a local hospital where I was threatened, beaten, and tortured. In 1977, I was convicted in a trial that can only be described as a legal lynching. In 1979, I was able to escape with the aid of some of my fellow comrades. I saw this as a necessary step, not only because I was innocent of the charges against me, but because I knew that the racist legal system in the United States, I would receive no justice. I was also afraid that I would be murdered in prison. I later arrived in Cuba, where I am currently living in exile as a political refugee. The New Jersey State Police and other law enforcement officials say they want to see me brought to justice. But I would like to know what they mean by justice. Is torture justice? I was kept in solitary confinement for more than 2 years, mostly in men's prisons. Is that justice? My lawyers were threatened with imprisonment and imprisoned. Is that justice? I was tried by an all-white jury without even the pretext of impartiality and then sentenced to life in prison plus 33 years. Is that justice? Let me emphasize that justice for me is not the issue I am addressing here. It is justice for my people that is at stake. When my people receive justice, I am sure that I will receive it too. I ask nothing for myself. I only ask you to examine the social reality of the United States and to speak out against the human rights violations that are taking place. On this day, the birthday of Martin Luther King, I am reminded of all those who gave their lives for freedom. Most of the people who live on this planet are still not free. I ask only that you continue to work and pray to end oppression and political repression. It is my heartfelt belief that all the people on this earth deserve justice, social justice, political justice, and economic justice. I believe it is the only way we will ever achieve peace and prosperity on this earth. I hope that you enjoy your visit to Cuba. This is not a country that is rich in material wealth, but it is a country that is rich in human wealth, spiritual wealth, and moral wealth. Respectfully yours, Assata Shakur, Havana, Cuba.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On
Sadly, not much has changed in present day. Okay, but let's talk about exactly what happened on the day of the shooting. A political activist most of my life, I am an ex-political prisoner who has lived in exile in Cuba since 1984. Although the U.S. government has done everything in its power to criminalize me, I am no criminal, nor have I ever been one. In the 1960s, I participated in the Black Liberation Movement, the Student Rights Movement, and the movement to end the war in Vietnam. I also joined the Black Panther Party. By 1969, the Black Panther Party had become the #1 organization targeted by the FBI's COINTELPRO program. Because it demanded the total liberation of Black people, J. Edgar Hoover called it the greatest threat to the internal security of the country and vowed to destroy it and its leaders and activists. I was falsely accused in 6 different criminal cases, and in all 6, I was eventually acquitted or the charges were dismissed. But these outcomes did not mean that I received justice in courts. It only meant that the evidence presented against me was so flimsy and false that my innocence became evident. The political persecution was part and parcel of the government's policy of eliminating political opponents by charging them with crimes. This is what Trump is doing. Do y'all see this is what Trump is doing right now? This man's taking out a whole page from J. Edgar Hoover's handbook. Are y'all noticing this? See, they used it against us in COINTELPRO. Trump's used it against anybody that ticks him off or who he deems as an opponent or his opposition. Now, with that all being said, this political persecution was part and parcel of the government's policy of eliminating political opponents by charging them with crimes and arresting them with no regard to the factual basis of these charges. Sounds like Trump and James Comey. And it's funny because you see, the thing is, the devils always turn on themselves. Now, on May the 2nd of 1973, this is the day of the shootout, Zaid Malik Shakur and Sundiata Akali were stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike, supposedly for a faulty tail light. Now, Sundiata got out of the car to determine why we were stopped. Zaid and I remained in the car. State Trooper Harper then came to the car, opened the door, and began to question us. Because we were Black and in a car with Vermont license plates, he claimed that he became suspicious. He then drew his gun, pointed it at us, and told us to put our hands in the air in front of us so he could see them. I complied, and in a split second, there was a sound that came from outside the car. There was a sudden movement, and I was shot twice with my arms held up in the air, and then once again from the back. Saeed and Trooper Werner Forrester were killed. So they killed the man that was in the car with her and also the other officer. After being almost fatally wounded, you see, the other officer likely killed that officer. Now, after being almost fatally wounded, I managed to climb in the back seat of the car to get away from the shooting. Sundiata drove the car 5 miles down the road, carried me to a grassy area because he was afraid that the police would see the car parked on the side of the road and would start shooting into it again. It was there that I was captured, dragged out of the car, stomped, and then left on the ground. Although I drifted in and out of consciousness, I remember clearly, both while I was lying on the ground and while I was in the ambulance, the state troopers repeatedly asked, "Is she dead yet?" I cannot remember, however, how long I was on the ground or how long it was before the ambulance was allowed to leave for the hospital. But in the trial transcript, Harper stated that while he was being questioned sometime after 2 a.m. in the morning, that a detective told him that I had just been brought into the hospital. I was the only live suspect in custody, and before that time, Harper had never told anyone that a woman had shot him. He never even said anything about her because he knew that she didn't do it. Although Harper admitted that he shot and killed Zaid, I was charged under the New Jersey felony murder law with killing both Zaid, who was my closest friend, and Forrester. Never in my life have I felt such grief. It was clear that Zaid had lost his life trying to protect me and Sundiata. Although he was also unarmed and the gun that killed Forrester was found under Zaid's leg, Sundiata, who was captured later, was also charged with both deaths. Now, on 3 official reports and during his testimony before the grand jury, Harper stated that he saw me take a gun out of my pocketbook. But he finally admitted under cross-examination that he never saw me with my hands in a pocketbook, never saw me with any weapon inside the car, and never saw me shoot him. See, this was all lies, okay, that were said while she was on trial. Moreover, 3 medical specialists examined me. A neurologist testified that I was paralyzed immediately after being shot. A surgeon testified that it was absolutely anatomically necessary that both arms in the air for Mrs. Chesimard to receive, or that both arms had been in the air for Mrs. Chesimard to receive the wounds. Now, the same surgeon also testified that the claim by Trooper Harper that I had been crouching in a firing position when I was shot was totally anatomically impossible. A pathologist testified that there is no conceivable way that the bullet that is, could have traveled over to hit the clavicle if her arm was down. He said it was impossible to have that trajectory. Now, the prosecutors presented no medical testimony to refute the above evidence. No evidence was ever presented that I had a 9mm weapon. In fact, New Jersey State Police testified that the 9mm weapon belonged to Zaid, based on a holster fitting the weapon that police recovered from his body. No fingerprints on any other evidence linked me to any guns or ammunition. The results of the neutron activation test, which could determine whether or not I had fired a weapon, were negative. Neither Sundiata nor I received a fair trial. We were both convicted in the news media long before our trials. Not one news media outlet was ever permitted to interview us. Although the New Jersey police and the FBI had stories to the press on a daily basis, okay, in 1977, I was convicted by an all-white jury and sentenced to life plus 33 years in prison. And in 1979, fearing that I would be murdered in prison and knowing that I would never receive any justice, my committed comrades liberated me from prison. Okay? This woman didn't do it. She was never guilty. How dare Kash Patel? Because he knows that she was innocent. He knows this. He has all the files. He's privy to all the information. Okay? He's literally the director of the FBI, sadly. So he knows that she was completely innocent, but yet he has the audacity to tell us not to mourn her death. Okay? The same devil that knows that Charlie Kirk said a whole bunch of racist things and demeaning things about Black people. But hold on, it isn't just Kash Patel, because where do you get a load of this? You see, they tried to compel Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, now they tried to get him to basically denounce Assata Shakur, because the teachers union posted comments on social media honoring her. And so they told him, well, you know, you should disavow that. You need to denounce it. Let's see what he did. Let's see what he did. Is he a raccoon or did he stand 10 toes down? Let's get into it. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. They could never make me disavow my people. I don't give a damn what they said. Okay, please pay attention.
Out the Chicago Teachers Union for glorifying a fugitive who'd been sentenced to life in prison for murder. They also called on Mayor Brandon Johnson to denounce the social media post. Assata Shakur, the godmother of rapper Tupac Shakur, was sentenced to life in prison for murdering a state trooper in 1973 during a shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike. Born Joanne Chesimard, Shakur landed on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list after she escaped prison in 1979 and fled to Cuba. She was a member of the militant Black Liberation Army, which was connected to bombings, bank robberies, and the murders of numerous police officers in the 1970s. After her death on September 25th, the Chicago Teachers Union tweeted, "Today we honor the life and legacy of a revolutionary fighter, a fierce writer, a revered elder of Black liberation, and a leader of freedom whose spirit continues to live in our struggle." A group of alders calling that post irresponsible.
Why does this matter? Because when union leaders elevate someone tied to one of the most violent groups in American history, they are sending our children a dangerous message: that violence and extremism are acceptable paths to change.
We live in a time when law enforcement officers across our city and nation are already under threat. Praising someone with this history of violence is not just misguided, it puts our local police officers in danger.
I'm sorry, but their safety and well-being is not my responsibility. That's for number one, because theirs definitely isn't mine. Okay, their responsibility is not my safety. The police no longer serve and protect. That's what they don't do. But the thing I want to point out to you all is this. You see how they stand up here boldly and lie to the faces of the masses? How they sit here and boldly lie and act as though she was so vicious and so violent when they all know the truth. But you see, what they're banking on is the fact that the people that they're speaking to will not read, will not do the research, will not, in fact, look and seek the truth. That's why they demonize the word woke, because we all know that if you're not woke, that means you're asleep at the wheel. And if you're asleep, then you don't know what the hell's going on. So all you have to go on are the lies that are being perpetuated, specifically by this government. But let's continue.
In a statement, the teachers union fired back, saying those alders are focusing on a tweet commemorating a history they do not understand and prefer to ignore or misrepresent.
The left feels that she was wrongly convicted. They don't buy the fact that she's a cop killer. So from the CTU's perspective, this is a legitimate person to be honored because she was, as they say, a freedom fighter.
Mayor Brandon Johnson today refusing to denounce the tweet by his former employer.
Assata Shakur is an important person in the Black liberation movement who has repeatedly claimed her innocence.
Assata Shakur's death and controversial path only serves to highlight the racial and political divide in this country, according to experts, and she will likely remain reviled by some while revered by others.
Well, the thing is, the ones that, that revile her, they don't look like us. I really don't care what they think about our revolutionaries. Okay, I don't give a D. All right, but I find it very interesting how they tried to get Mayor Brandon Johnson to get up there and denounce her. Okay, and he said no. But did you all see the look on his face? He looked like he was very nervous, and that's likely because he probably thinks that he's put his entire career on the line by not doing what they requested. And he likely has, unfortunately, because in this world run, or this country run by wanton supremacy, isn't that usually the cost of standing 10 toes down for your own people, speaking up and speaking out for your people? You just might lose your job, your position. You may be shamed. They may try to go in on you. You never know. You may be shadow banned on YouTube and other platforms, but hey, that's all that comes along with it. Now, with that all being said, there was a journalist who was young. He was like 21 years old, working for CNN, and he went to spend the summer in Cuba. And while he was there, he had the bright idea to try to hunt down Assata Shakur so he could, in fact, interview her. And he absolutely did. So I'm going to play that interview that wasn't released till about 30 years after he actually recorded it. Don't ask me why. Maybe he was afraid. I don't know. But we're going to listen to that. But before we do, while I'm waiting for these ads to stop, let's go to her daughter, okay, Kakuya Shakur, who did a poem after her mother's passing. Like stuff, everyone, please like and share. And then we got to move on to talk about Trump and the low down, dirty stuff that he said to the military and how they weren't feeling it. And all the generals were sitting there silent. Yikes. And Trump thought people were going to applaud him, and nobody did. And so he got mad and said, and if y'all don't like it, y'all can leave. And along with that goes your rank. So he's demoting people in the military of their positions because they don't like what he said in a speech and they don't want to applaud him. I'll tell you what. D Major says the conservatives think Johnson is the devil. Thank you for that tidbit, beloved. And I'm sure they do. And thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. But, Johnson shouldn't give a darn what they think, because I know I don't. Who cares about conservatives and what they think? They're nothing but liars who lie, idiots who paint false narratives, and try to project all of their nefariousness onto the left, period. I don't care what they think about anything. I wish they'd take a long walk off of a short pier.
This story doesn't end at the pummeled edge of the hunted body, or at the seamless sink of silver-studded moon dust slipping through it when, Nothing is left but ashen whispers clinging to barren bones. This story isn't meant to die, isn't bound by molecules, doesn't stick to a needled tongue, spewing a toxic spittle of lies, corroding the substance of who you are and who they've never been. This story doesn't rip on the steel blade of a cinder block death, a modern day auction block death, in a rabbit cage in a prison cell steeped in the unholy metal dirge of barrels locked and loaded, of triggers still as hawks before the fevered feast, before the dive of feathers, before the timeless pain that ricochets between the brick and mortar, of the faceless void that chains the spirit that can't be shattered by their guns. This story doesn't cower from the daggered womb that conceived America in its sinful loins. It's not the same old story never told, not the hushed smell of tears still draped in summer's rain, splashing on the memory of how they killed the spirit buffalo, of how they danced and made merry in the mire of her sacred blood, starved the people to steal the land, bent the will to bind the spirit, enslaved the sovereign body, squeezed the liquid gold from their conquered blood. Can you hear it? The heart still drumming in sacred tongues, the memories that always claw back like hunger, moaning in the haunt of mourning. Come, tell your heaven spawned, your sons and your daughters, that we are still the rebel magic at the earth's kindled core. That we are heavy from iron, souls we forged, from our will to survive the slaughter. That we are blackened by the sun, hematite shards sharpened by the grit of our scars that we rip from our leathered backs like coats too small to fit our broadened shoulders anymore because we resisted. As our tongues were plucked, as our chains were tightened, enough to bend the tide of our blood, as our wombs were pillaged, as our scars crawled into the hollow night of our ravaged bodies, we resisted. And even in our torrid death, writhing in the crackle of crimson coals, we still resisted in the bristle of our undead souls, reaching from the reeds. Can you hear it? The crowing story that can only end in the retelling of who we are. That we stand for life in the technicolor infinite of all its human hues. That we come for love lighter than the banter of clouds and sweeter than the honey bloom of dusk. That we summon the righteous death of oppression by excising the malignant greed pressing on the vital artery of life. And we believe in wayward souls that swim upstream against the current because our struggle has to mean something. Our sunken tears have to reach something. Some shimmered seed, some bubbling yolk deep in the craggy root to grow something glorious.
All right, so that was a beautiful poem. And so with that all being said, let's go to the interview. It's just a brief interview, about 3.5 minutes, that this journalist did. Like I said, when he was 21 and had just started working for CNN. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
I've been holding on to for nearly 30 years.
So I came here and I was like expecting, first of all, everybody to look like Fidel.
One of my first jobs in journalism was when I was a college student, and I was actually the first intern in CNN's Havana bureau. And while I spent the summer of 1998 on the island, I had the somewhat crazy, probably not very smart idea that I would track down the FBI's most wanted fugitive in Cuba, whose name is Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur, by her own definition, was a revolutionary. She was someone who was first a Black Panther and then joined a more radical group called the Black Liberation Army. I describe her as revolutionary royalty because she was the godmother of rapper Tupac Shakur. She was a step aunt, and she was someone who had the highest profile imaginable. So she was very much on the FBI's radar for years, and they accused her over those years of carrying out attacks, carrying out robberies, targeting police. And this all came to a head at one point in New Jersey when she was pulled over and they ended up getting into a gunfight with police that led to the death of a New Jersey state trooper. Shakur was blamed for that. She was shot in this gunfight. She was tried. She was convicted of the murder of that New Jersey state trooper.
Because what I saw in the United States in those prisons was slavery. It was Black people with chains in cells. It was just poor people, just stepped on and smashed. I'll never forget what I saw. I'll never forget what I've lived through. I'll never forget what my people have lived through.
Her fellow revolutionaries actually managed to break her out of jail in New Jersey, and then she disappears. And police are never able to find her again until in 1984, she just resurfaces in Havana, Cuba, and is given political asylum by Fidel Castro, and is kind of the highest profile fugitive on the island, certainly the most wanted. So I was 21 years old. I was an intern for CNN, I was a college student, and I thought, why don't I track her down? And it turned out to be not as hard as I thought it would have. She didn't have any Cuban government minders. She didn't have any bodyguards. She was very composed. She came across more like a college professor than a bloodthirsty cop killer. Now, of course, that's what the FBI calls her. That they say that she's an unrepentant killer. She's someone who used violence. She never renounced violence. And that she was someone who really lived on the knife's edge. And a lot of people like her either ended up dead in those years or in jail. And she's one of really the few of this group of revolutionaries that managed to escape and live out the rest of her days, as it turned out, in Cuba. And this past week, the Cuban government announced that Assata Shakur, at age 78, had died in Havana, the most wanted person. She seemed to sort of thumb her nose at the long arm of the U.S. law that was not able to reach her here. But in the last decade or so of her life, she essentially went into hiding, and that's how she died.
All right. Rest in peace to Assata Shakur, Queen Assata Shakur. Okay, so that all being said, now let's talk about Trump. Oh, and by the way, I saw somebody going in on poor little old Dr. Umar, not about his shenanigans, but because they didn't like what he said about Charlie Kirk. Let's talk about that real quick. Here's what Dr. Umar said about Charlie Kirk, and somebody dragged him all across his YouTube streets for it. I didn't really see anything wrong with it. In fact, I thought it was appropriate. He said, while I did not agree with Mr. Kirk's rhetoric and considered him to be an anti-Black bigot, I will never rejoice at the loss of life of anyone who hasn't directly participated in the unaliving of a member of the Black African race. I am ashamed to see members of my community celebrating this situation. I will never ask you to mourn the loss of an enemy or our race, but of an enemy of our race, but to celebrate an unaliving is completely unacceptable. We know all too well that the greatest recipients of political assassinations in this country have been our own people. Stop laughing at the misfortunes of others and get prepared. Political assassinations have returned to the United States of America, courtesy of the deep state. Well, I think Dr. Umar said a word. Now, I know I went in on him for his shenanigans, but hey, let's just call a spade a spade. I actually agree with what he said. We should not have been celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, whether we liked him or not. That is wrong. We wouldn't want anybody celebrating the deaths of our people, but we damn sure don't have to mourn him. And that's just what it is. All right, that's facts on facts on facts. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about y'all's President Trump. Oh my gosh, is he serious right about now? Sadly, he is. Sadly, he is. Oh, but wait, before we get into that nefarious speech of him and Hegseth, Let's go to the lies that he's out here telling. Okay? Ooh, honey, he is out here lying. I mean, that's nothing new, of course. I just found it interesting. First of all, um, let me just go to this report. Now, I did report on this the other day. For you all who missed it, I did tell you how Judge James Gosnell was caught with all that child porn. Yeah, him. And did you know that he's Republican? And also, he is, and they're quiet on this, but he also um was the one that called Dylan Ruth's family victims. Okay? Y'all hear that? He called Dylan Ruth's family victims, not the 9 people who lost their lives in the church, not the families of them. No, Dylan Ruth is who he said his family were the victims. Please pay attention.
To the parents of the community, our investigation has revealed that Gosnell claims to have abused very young children. If you have left your child alone with Gosnell, even let him hold your child, please email the tip line, which we've set up.
A warning from federal investigators now calling on the public to help identify possible victims of the suspended Charleston County magistrate. James Gosnell Jr. will remain in custody at Al Cannon Detention Center until a preliminary hearing. This comes after his attorney waived his right to a detention hearing Monday. Federal investigators say they found hundreds of videos, photos, and conversations involving children and infants less than a year old after they searched Gosnell's home and county chambers. So far, 14 USB drives, iPhones, iPads, discs, VHS tapes, and numerous other electronic devices, all containing child sexual abuse materials, were seized. Federal officials say they found messages where Gosnell talked about sexually abusing children in his own neighborhood.
James Gosnell was appointed to the position of trust to protect the community from criminals amongst us. But as detailed in the government's detention memorandum, he is alleged to have abused and exploited the most vulnerable, infants and toddlers.
For more information on this ongoing investigation, visit our website at abcnews4.com.
In his own neighborhood, low down, dirty devil. Isn't that just awful and so egregious? Those poor children. Okay, prayers for them, for them being able to get past the trauma of it all. I mean, can you imagine? This man's a whole judge. Now, hold on. Let's get into it because here we go. Trump and his cabinet just out here lying, blaming everything on the left. As if we're all idiots and don't know who the real nefarious ones are. Let's get into it.
Your president thinks you're a fucking idiot. Top of the whitehouse.gov website right now, you can see a banner that says Democrat shutdown is imminent. It's not just the whitehouse.gov website. The HUD.gov website also has a big alert when you get on it that says the radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need. Let me fucking remind you that the Republican Party currently controls the presidency, the House of Representatives, and the fucking Senate. And fuck if I don't mention that they also control the Supreme Court with a 6-3 MAGA majority. Somehow they think that if they can bombard you with false information that you're going to fucking believe what they're selling. The fucked up part about this is that a lot of people don't even know what the shutdown will actually mean. So here's what it will actually mean. Food and Drug Administration, as an example, already warned that it would end its ability to monitor the use of new ingredients in animal food and thus would not be able to ensure the meat, milk, and eggs of livestock are safe for the public to eat. So get ready for more foodborne illnesses. Also, Social Security checks are going to be fucking impacted. Why? Because the Social Security Administration could face a furloughed workforce, and fewer workers could mean the processing new Social Security applications could be delayed. Here's the worst part of it all. Federal workers will not be paid during the shutdown. And yet, employees who are considered essential must still report to work, although they will not get paid until the government fucking reopens. Rest assured that Donald Trump and members of Congress, they will still receive their paychecks because their pay is constitutionally protected. Hear me when I say this, and I mean this with all fucking sincerity. Your president thinks you're a fucking idiot and that you deserve to starve and that you're going to believe anything he fucking sells.
Okay, so you all see that. Now hold on, let's go to what this black soldier had to say, and then we're going to go to Trump's speech. Okay, likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go.
I just want y'all to understand that I can see green as much as I want to. I can talk about brotherhood, togetherness as much as I want to. But when I take this uniform off and I step outside of any installation, I'm not viewed as a soldier. I'm not viewed as a Sergeant First Class. There's people that view me as an enemy. There are people that view me as less than a human. There are people that treat me like a criminal. There's been times in my life when I've been spoke down on just based off my appearance, the color of my skin. So you have to understand that those with a conscious mind, we have to find a balance. You understand? And the more enlightenment in which we gain, there's going to be moments in our journey where we get uncomfortable. You understand? So please don't combat those like me. Get a sense of understanding, because you don't know my upbringing. You don't know how I view the world. You don't know how I'm treated in the world. You understand? So never discredit me as a Black man. Please. I have a story that must be told, and I have a legacy that I must leave behind for those after me. And I want to make sure I do it in a righteous manner. You understand? Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you, even if the rights doesn't. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. Now, here's the thing. I discouraged both of my beautiful sons from ever, joining the military. Why fight for a country that don't love you? Let's not forget all the pictures of soldiers who fought for this country. And we literally have pictures of them hanging from trees in their uniforms. Marinate on that for a second. Okay? Marinate on that for a second. All right, so with that all being said, let's get into this nefarious speech and the devils who gave it.
To a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Those values and ideas are contained within the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the moral North Star for all of us who have the privilege of wearing the cloth of our nation. It is that document that all of us in uniform swear to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who sacrificed themselves on the altar of freedom in the last 2.5 centuries of this country must not have done so in vain. The millions wounded in our nation's wars did not sacrifice their limbs and shed their blood to see this great experiment in democracy perish from this earth. No, we the American people, we the American military must never turn our back on those who don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Well, Trump, it looks like it's talking about you. Okay? Looks like he's talking about Trump. And he's absolutely right. Trump wants everybody to bow down and kiss the ring.
There are two N words, and you can't use either of them. If it does get to use, we have more than anybody else.
Welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over.
I've never walked into a room so silent before. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. You can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future.
We're ending the war on warriors. I heard someone wrote a book about that.
When I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall.
I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men.
So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop.
No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression, no more beardos.
We used to sign a piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper.
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
I love myself.
So now they're fat shaming people. Is that what they're doing? Do y'all hear this? So now because someone may be a little robust, they're not capable of doing their job. Are y'all listening to this? What does their hair, their weight, and beards have to do with it? I want y'all to pay attention.
Signature, I really do. Everyone loves my signature. I always think to myself, how can you have an auto pen sign this?
Being a racist has been illegal in our formation since 1948. The same goes for sexual harassment. Both are wrong and illegal. But telling someone to shave or get a haircut or to get in shape or to fix their uniform or to show up on time or to work hard, that's exactly the kind of discrimination we want.
They said, we'd like to name it the F-47. I said, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know what that means, 47, I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, yeah, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46.
Each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only.
Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone. Unless they're playing false tapes, this looked like World War II. San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. We're going to straighten them out one by one. That's a war too. It's a war from within.
The only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it.
I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country.
Now they like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. Oh, that's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. Well, we also have domestic.
To our enemies, F-A-F-O.
It's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control.
Okay, well, that sounds like he's waging war on his own people, his own country, and that's called treason. Okay, in case y'all missed it. Did you hear what they were saying? The enemy from within. Yeah. The enemy from within. I want you all to pay attention to that. That's absolutely crazy. Now, I had to put your comment back up here, Shoshana, because I absolutely love it. Said we've been taken over by 1935 Yahtzee Germany. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. And in fact, beloved, someone called his speech Hitleresque. And I have to agree. Okay, Alejandro, thank you for your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. This is all egregious. What has the world come to?
For the people who have a job that other people don't want, but now you have a job that everybody wants. So I think that has to make you feel good. It's one of the reasons I love being here today, because I wanted to say that. I have to say that everybody wants to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. If you think the Coast Guard and Space Force, and you must have felt like hell when you have a wife or a husband at home, and you used to read the numbers that we can't get people to join the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. You must have felt like, I have a job that nobody wants. That doesn't feel good. Well, now you have a job that is brimming over with people wanting it. They want it. And you're able to get a much higher quality because now you have your choice. You know, you want so many, and we're going to have many, many people that aren't going to be able to join because of the fact that we don't need them at this moment. But think of it, what a difference that is from, I could just imagine 2 years ago, you're reading front page articles in the New York Times, of course, and Wall Street Journal. They always give us unfair stories. But they played it so big. They were playing it so big. Nobody wants to join the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. They don't want to join. They don't want to join the Coast Guard at all.
What? Can somebody please tell me what in the hell this man's talking about? Does anyone have a clue? And why is it that every time he opens his mouth, it looks like something betwixt two cheeks? I'm not talking about the ones on someone's face. Okay? What is he even talking about? He sounds so stupid, but let's continue.
Nobody wants to join. Nobody wants to join our police forces. Our police forces also. It's almost went hand in hand. And I used to say, boy, I'm speaking in front of the military today, and it's embarrassing because I'm speaking in front of people who have a job that other people don't want, but now you have a job that everybody wants. So I think.
All right, enough of that foolishness. I think he likes to hear himself talk. Does he have dementia? He was talking all that talk about Biden, but something's wrong with him, if you ask me.
The address by Pete Hegseth, the generals and the admirals, and they were all having to be seething with contempt, going, wait a second, I left my troops,
right.
I left the forward positions that I had been put in to defend America and defend American interests across the globe, to come have this guy lecture me about warrior ethos and some bizarre pep rally. And then Donald Trump came up, and as we said yesterday, again, it was like a campaign speech that you might have seen late in the campaign. That was Willie up until the very end when, as the Wall Street Journal says, Donald Trump told our military leaders that he may want to use the military against Americans, saying the enemy within, talking about using the United States military to train. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care how MAGA you are. I don't care how long you've been supporting Donald Trump. That's a serious breach. That's a breach not only of military tradition, that's a breach of the law. It's a breach in every way. There is no way. And I know right now watching, there are Republicans in the Senate. There are Republicans in the House who understand what an extraordinary breach that is, what he said was. And now is the time, because they held their right hand up and they took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of this land. This would be a pretty good time for them to actually execute that oath and say, no, we don't use the United States military to attack Americans. We don't use the United States military to fight, quote, the enemy within, especially when Donald Trump is now defining enemies as public interest groups that oppose his politics.
I think in many ways, both Secretary Hegseth and President Trump were surprised. They expected kind of a rah-rah pep rally, and they didn't get that from the people, as you say, who'd flown in, men and women from all corners of the world, left their posts to listen to Pete Hegseth lecture them about warrior ethos and wokeness in the military and everything else. They didn't get the response they expected. In fact, there were a couple of moments where Pete Hegseth sort of paused for a laugh or applause. Did everything but the Jeb Bush, please clap. And these generals and senior leaders just sat there and watched, wondering what on earth they were doing there.
I'm so through. Okay. Not the Jeb Bush, please clap. These people are pathetic, okay? Absolutely pathetic. Two idiots together, making a fool of themselves.
This is Lieutenant Colonel retired Malcolm S. Ritchie. I come to you as a retired member of the U.S. Army Reserve. 3 combat tours in Iraq, 32 years of service, not as a candidate today. Next week, the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, a failed major in the Army National Guard, now the Secretary of War, calling all combatant commanders to Quantico, Virginia. Why is he doing this? To prepare for World War III with Russia? To prepare for a strike on Venezuela, not authorized by the United States Congress? Is this for moving into Gaza? Or is this a combination of all, plus a loyalty test and maybe even a loyalty oath to the president, which is not included in the officer's oath? We swear our oath to the United States Constitution, and I will never, ever swear my allegiance to any one person, not even the President of the United States. Our oath of office is to serve the Constitution, which this regime has violated every which way you go.
Okay, so y'all heard that. He said they're going to politically resist this regime. Okay, I wonder what Trump's going to have to say about him saying that. Okay, we know how Trump gets down with his ridiculous self at the end of the day. I can pretty much assure you that my brother, who was in the military and the Army, and my uncle, who retired from the Navy, are both glad, okay, that they're no longer in the military with this fool in office.
So just in case you're unclear on where I stand on this topic, I'm going to leave you with my most important thought today. If you can't treat someone with dignity and respect, then you need to get out. If you can't treat someone from another gender, whether that's a man or a woman, with dignity and respect, then you need to get out. If you demean someone in any way, then you need to get out. And if you can't treat someone from another race or a different color skin with dignity and respect, then you need to get out. Reach for your phones. I'm serious. Reach for your phones. Grab your phones. I want you to videotape this so that you have it, so that you can use it. So that we all have the moral courage together. All of us on the staff tower, lining the glass, all of us in this room. This is our institution. And if you need it, and you need my words, then you keep these words. And you use them, and you remember them, and you share them, and you talk about them. If you can't treat someone with dignity and respect, then get out.
All right, he said what he said, okay? And I absolutely agree. And a shout out to the good soldiers and generals and lieutenants and all those people who are doing their jobs, okay, and are not treating people in a disparaging way. At the end of the day, Trump is really, he and his entire cabinet are sowing nothing but seeds of division. They're trying to start a civil war. They're begging for it. They're asking for it every day. But they want us to think that it's the left that is the problem.
Wow. Straight up silence from the generals when Pete Hegseth introduces Donald Trump at the meeting this morning. In case you need some hope and encouragement, check this out. So much silence that even Donald Trump made a statement about it when he got up to the mic, stating he's never walked into a room that was so silent, and then goes on to tell people they can leave if they don't like what he's saying, but there goes their rank and their future.
Join me in welcoming the 45th and 47th President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that at that moment, Trump thought that he was going to get a standing ovation. Sadly, he didn't.
Much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank.
That's fucking embarrassing. And it really gives you a line into what those generals and admirals have going on in their brain. Apparently, it looks like they're just as tired of his shit as we are. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bad for him. Okay, these people don't want, all of this stuff they're doing, it's egregious. And these people know it. And here's the thing. Now we're going to hear from a former Army sniper in a minute. But before I get into that, I want to tell you all that I think I can see where Trump is trying to go with this all. And I want to tell you all about it, but I can't talk about it on ScrewTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take time out of my day tomorrow and then put up the video on Rumble. Okay? Because I think I know exactly what Trump's up to. And this is something that started or that came about during the Reagan era. This idea that they had. And it involves using the military against civilians, specifically ones who look like a certain group. But anyway, with that all being said, let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go.
I just listened to Pete Hegseth and Trump address the top brass in the military. And I knew that this speech was either going to be about a growing global threat that America needs to prepare for, or it was going to be about using the military on civilians in America, weaponizing and politicizing the military. I'm not really going to talk about Pete's speech. That shit was written by ChatGPT. Look, I think Pete is a joke. I think this is going to backfire in his face. I think he's inexperienced, and I don't think he knows what he's doing. He wants to create...
Wait a minute. Did you all hear that he said Pete's speech was written by ChatGPT? Y'all heard that, right? Well, I'm sure it probably was. Okay? And you can always tell when people use ChatGPT to write speeches or talking points because they usually sound like babbling idiots because they're not educated and they don't sound educated until they use ChatGPT. But hey, let Pete rock out.
The military like it's some 1990s action film. But society has changed, technology has changed, the world has changed, and it's not going to work. The main thing that I want to talk about is Trump's speech. You know, he didn't mention America's enemies very often, right? China, Russia. He mentioned the enemy within America, right? American civilians, me. He mentioned me and half of the people viewing this multiple times and talked about using the military on civilians and the rationale behind that. And it's other people have done it. Why can't I do it? Invading blue cities, using Chicago as a training ground for the military. And just, look, here's what I'm going to say. A lot of people are worried, but I can almost guarantee you that every single general and admiral in that room listened to this fucking tired, old, crazy man talk. And in their head, they were thinking, this guy's a fucking joke. Because I watched Trump's speech and he just rambled and rambled, talking about how much he loves firefighters and how they're getting shot at while they're on a ladder. He's the Mad King is what he is. And I think every general and admiral in that room recognized that Trump is a fool. I just hope that for the next 3 years, something globally serious does not happen. Because I do not want this administration having to make very serious decisions. That keeps me up at night.
Yeah, it keeps me up at night too, sadly. Okay, because these idiots are the last ones we need making very serious decisions. Okay, especially when it pertains to war and having the nuclear codes, per se.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
No, attention. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution.
Or a dictator or a wannabe dictator. You take an oath to the Constitution. Now that was a speech that should have been said yesterday, not the crap we saw.
Exactly. And I fast forwarded that because I'd already played it. Now, with that all being said, let's go to the to Pete Hegseth when he talked about women. Like some, everyone, please like and share. Okay, we're almost through this.
If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it.
This administration has been bragging about improving recruitment numbers for people into the military, but I can't help but think that there must be a lot of capable young women watching that speech from Pete Hegseth and thinking, you know what, that feels like a bit of a misogynistic institution and it's not for me. You know, I would think in this day and age, the way that modern warfare happens, that brains are as important as brawn these days. And, you know, that there is absolutely a place for women in the military. And I'm sure lots of men who are currently in the US military would feel exactly the same way and would have been quite appalled at what, you know, the Defense Secretary was saying.
Yeah, I think you're right, Martha. You know, women who want to join the military, but also women who are in place in the military, career soldiers, pilots, you know, Navy personnel who have performed successful roles over many years. You know, I suppose they will wonder where they fit into the Hegseth vision of their military, their career.
And people like, you know, serving United States Senator Tammy Duckworth, who lost both her legs, you know, in active duty service. She's been forced to watch that sort of rhetoric from Hegseth.
And that's a darn shame that she had to hear that BS after losing her darn legs. Just scandalous. So sad and disrespectful and disgraceful to boot. Likes up, everyone, please like and share.
If Secretary Hegseth,
this is retired General Wesley Clark,
says we're doing something wrong, maybe that's to be looked at for the policy level. But I will say this, one of the great things about our warfighting skill is that we do take care of our soldiers and we take care of the innocent civilians that are there. We know that when we go into fight, we have to use the right amount of force on the right adversary, and that's what it's about. Now, as far as what President Trump said, I heard much of the speech, and my concern is, honestly, that we got to be really careful about using American troops in the United States. They don't belong here. There's a way they can be used if the Insurrection Act is declared. But I'm looking at the threat environment in these cities, and I don't see a threat environment that justifies calling out U.S. troops. If you take the case of Portland, Oregon, you've got state and local authorities there. They seem perfectly capable of handling it. So I'm worried about what the, let's call it the hidden agenda might be behind this, because there's no reason these troops are and these leaders should be focused on our allies, on the concerns, the security threats facing the United States beyond our borders. That's why we have the United States Armed Forces.
And he's absolutely right. And I want you all to pay attention, because there is absolutely a hidden agenda. There absolutely is a hidden agenda. Okay. And for those of you, when I was telling you not to sit there and, you know, just, you know, say you didn't care about what Trump was doing to the immigrants when he was sending them to countries where they don't even come from and just, infringing on their rights and all of those things. I told you that we could be next. Okay. And then we should be able to see that from him sending all the military out to these cities. Okay. Acting like they're just so nefarious. I want y'all to pay attention because I know exactly where he's going with this. Okay. Like I told you all. That's the hidden agenda. And we're going to talk about it. Like I said, I'm going to post it on Rumble. Okay. So, yeah, Mel says Trump can care less about our Constitution. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, with that all being said, One Box, thanks for being a member for 11 months, beloved. Says, hello, fine lady. What are you going to fix to eat tonight? I hope it's good. That's a good question, beloved. I don't even have an idea. And it's late already, and I haven't even thought about it. I've been working literally all day, beloved. Maybe I'll just have a salad or something. Maybe I'll throw myself together a salad, or maybe I'll make a vegetable soup real quick. Okay, homemade. Now let's go to, but thank you for asking. Okay, now let's go to Governor Pritzker, because we all know that him and Trump don't get along. Okay, he's absolutely right.
They're not targeting violent criminals or gang members. They're arresting tamale vendors and delivery men and shaking down families. Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan said they were targeting the worst of the worst criminals. They lied, and they continue to lie. 60% of the individuals that ICE has taken in Illinois this year have no criminal convictions of any kind. ICE is running around the loop harassing people for not being white. Just a year ago, that was illegal in the United States. Now, ICE is making it commonplace. In any other country, if federal agents fired upon journalists and protesters when unprovoked, what would we call it? If federal agents marched down busy streets, harassing civilians and demanding their papers, what would we say? I don't think we'd have any trouble calling it what it is: authoritarianism. So let's not pretend it's something else when it happens in our American cities.
Exactly. Okay, let's not pretend it's something else. Trump is the devil himself. And if they're doing all of this to the immigrants and the way they have ICE jumping out on them, attacking them, I literally saw a video the other day, and I can't show it on here because of the violence, but there was a little immigrant child who looked to be no more than about 8 to 10 years old. And there were ICE agents outside the door about to break the door down. And they were saying that they had a warrant. And the mother or whoever the adults were in the house were saying, show us the warrant. Show us the warrant. And the little kid was saying, show us the warrant. And then telling the parents, well, they're saying they don't have to show it to us until they get inside. This is the stuff they're doing. You're supposed to show the warrant before they even open their door. But they were telling them, we don't have to show you the warrant until we come inside. And then they burst through the door, came inside, and they didn't show them a damn thing. They immediately attacked them and started yelling at them, get on the ground, get on the ground, don't move. I mean, it was like they were at war with these people. A family, okay, with kids. Little children in elementary school at the door. Now I want y'all to marinate on that, because it could be your kids next. You think they don't like the immigrants, but I'm sure you also know that these racist devils on the right, and there's some on the left too, racist devils that is, but at the end of the day, racist people that don't like the immigrants, I can tell you who they hate even worse, and that would be us. Okay, that would be us. So please pay attention, because what they're doing to them could be done to us real soon. And in fact, some of it already is. All right? Some of it already is. And let's not forget those Africans that they sent over there to Ghana, fed them bread and water on the trip, had them in straight jackets. Some of them died because they couldn't breathe from the way they had their arms wrapped around themselves. They suffocated or something. And then they were sending them to be persecuted. You think they cared? They didn't. All right? Torturing these people.
From what I heard from Secretary Hegseth and what I heard from the president, I feel like we are very far afield from where the founding fathers of this country wanted us to be.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that. The words that Donald Trump used today, enemy from within, I mean, that's Hitler-esque. That is right out of Nazi Germany. That is not constitutional speech. That is not the speech that we stand for in this country, where we believe in the rule of law. And the way that he talks about cities, that cities are full of his enemies. Why? Because they voted for Democrats. They voted blue. And so they have become his enemies. And that he wants to use the military in our cities. The military is designed, and our mission is to, excuse me for saying after 36 years, I still
you're entitled to own it.
But, after the military is to protect our nation. The military is not to police our nation. And his misuse of the military breaches the very trust that the military has in our civilian leadership. And as for Secretary of Defense Hegseth, the problem he has is that he is completely incompetent. The military and the men and women who were present in that auditorium, whether they were the senior enlisted advisors, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, we value competency. That's what we value. He has not earned his spurs.
Okay, he said Trump. He's the one that said Trump gave that Hitler-esque speech. All right. DJ Big Six says, where are those Epstein files? Exactly. You see, Trump has caused so much chaos. And along with the Charlie Kirk death and all of that, where are the Epstein files? I completely forgot about it. But y'all to pay attention, I literally forgot about the Epstein files for just a moment. Okay, for just a moment. But if I forgot about them for just a moment, what's everybody else doing? Okay. What's everybody else doing? They've already forgotten. The major scale up said it's a distraction. Exactly. But a distraction that we need to be paying attention to, sadly, because we don't know where this is going. But I think I absolutely know where Trump is heading. Okay. And we're going to talk about it. Like I said, I'm going to put the video on Rumble. All right. With that being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I hope you all got something out of it. You need to be prepared and getting your food, water, your non-perishable food items and all of that, stocking up on water and everything that I've been telling you, okay, about your lifelines. Y'all need to be making sure you're doing it. Okay. And stay prayed up. With that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. I'll see you in the morning with your morning wake-up call. Until then, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And one more thing I want to say before I go. One thing that I was thinking about, I was thinking about how Trump, no matter what he's talking about, he always seems to find a way to bring up Obama's name and what a bad, terrible, horrible president that Obama was. He really hates President Obama. He really hates him. Okay. And though I'm not exactly a fan of Obama, specifically because he put Assata Shakur on that terrorist list, but also because he didn't really do anything for us, in my opinion, not much. But At the end of the day, he was a far better president than Trump could ever dream of being, and Trump knows it. And I think that Trump is also angry and butthurt because he knows that Obama is everything he could never be. Obama was the first Black president of the Harvard Law Review, okay? Graduated from an Ivy League school, all right? Very charismatic, intellectual, handsome, well-spoken, and all of that. Won the Nobel Peace Prize even. That really, really bothers Trump. And after all of his campaigning and begging and pleading and trying to boost himself up, hoping that he would get a Nobel Peace Prize, they came out and told him, no, you're not going to get a damn thing from us. And we really are sick and tired of you trying to promote yourself to do so, because it ain't going to happen. Now, they didn't say his name, as I showed you in that video when the man spoke about it, but everybody knows, including Trump, exactly who they were talking about. Okay? Trump is not worthy of any sort of prize or award, unless it's the award for being the most nefarious or being the dumbest. Okay, somebody buy him a dunce cap and send him that. That's all he's worthy of, in my opinion. All right, so anyway, I love you all to life, and I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got